All right, well, hello again, everyone, and welcome out. This is Ankit from Maverick Currencies here, and this is our market roundup for Monday, August the 8th. There's a lot to talk about today as we had a nice little roller coaster move in the market. So let's take a look at it and do a quick deep dive into a market analysis, and then talk about our upcoming 24 hours, and then kind of follow our trading plan as we discuss in the currency room. So the markets were a bit of a back and forth today. And if you look at the intraday price action, that's where you will see that where the turn happened. But if you look at the overall and the daily chart, you notice that we actually reversed very nicely off that resistance level. So this morning, it actually looked very promising that it was about to break out, and it did break out. And this is, again, one of the good reasons why we look for confirmation. We know this is a heavy resistance, and the price action today was not able to hold above that level. So we have a clear rejection. For the next 24 to 48 hours, I think we probably would stay in this lower bound of this range with a bit of a twist, which is tomorrow. The CPI, US CPI figures that's due tomorrow, I think that could provide a bit of a market price action that could move aggressively one with the other. But outside of that, technically speaking, I think we have a false rejection, a false breakout today, so a clear rejection. So outside of that, I mean, if you take a look at the world markets, we saw the exact same thing, VT. So the only place where we had a very nice price action today was crypto. And as you can see, crypto, after declining for a few days and then just consolidating for a little bit longer time, we are now getting back towards that previous resistance. So at this point, I mean, this seems to be a very similar price action that we've seen in the past as well. The question is that, do we have enough to break out? And again, like everything else, look for confirmation. So we just tested that resistance. It looked promising, but follow through is really what the big question mark is here. So if we can break out above that level, I think there could be a little more further traction towards it, but so far, not really seeing that here. So outside of the crypto, again, which had a nice 3.56% gains and actually did not reverse today. So overall, it was a solid day in the crypto market. But outside of that, gold had a nice little jump at 0.86%. We had the oil markets that were up 2.19%. And again, the biggest kind of turnaround that we saw from Friday was the US dollar actually gave up all the gains. Again, this is something we need to discuss further because the dollar is really what we are focusing on tomorrow with the US CPI figures on the docket. We would expect the dollar to hold in the gains till tomorrow, but actually it was not as strong as day today. So something to look into. And as the dollar pulls back, we saw the Australian dollar and the Kiwi actually outperform today. So the price action wise, it was a bit of a neutral day overall because we didn't end up too much in the negative. We weren't as positive. We got that roller coaster move during the day, but it was, I think at this point, as far as the outlook goes, I'm kind of getting a bit more on the neutral side here. With the fact that we got that rejection today, I think we have to be cautious on the upside and maybe a bit of a potential to a further downside. So now next thing now we take a look at in the next 24 hours, or actually in the 48 hours on Wednesday this time, we had the US CPI figures. That's due at 8:30. So again, we still have a bit more ways to go. And I think until then, the dollar might stay jittery. After this, if this inflation numbers comes out hotter, then I would expect the dollar to be actually much stronger. But if this number comes out weaker, I think then that would be a bit more on the bearish side for the dollar. So I think dollar kind of stands in the middle here. Again, it's not really showing us great strength. It's not really showing us big weakness. It has a chance to move either way. So that's really the big focus here. So let's do a quick currency analysis and take a look at how things are moving in the crypto and the foreign currency world, and then see what currencies we need to pay attention to closely here. So starting with the cryptocurrency world, one of the things that we're seeing continues to be the outperformer here is Ethereum. It was up 4.89%. Again, that was the best one across the board. And again, technically speaking, if I take a look at all the charts, Ethereum actually, technically speaking, actually looks the best to me here. So I think this is the only coin that I really likes here on the upside. Now, going into the currency side, again, we talk about in our currency room outlook that a lot of the currencies are not really showing a good directional move. You know, if you look at the trend scores are getting a little bit more towards zero. I mean, which means that it can swing either way. Australian dollar and the Kiwi dollar both has a trend score of a 0. But you can see that we had a nice little velocity move during the day today. So again, keep in mind that the trend score gives you that continuation. It gives you that continuity pattern. So if you're looking for further breakouts, then you look for Australian dollar to actually continue higher. But the fact that the trend scores are not as strong, we have to be a lot more cautious about looking for follow through. So in the shorter term, Australian dollar and Kiwi had a good move. On the other side, we actually had the yen and the dollar actually were both down. Then even though the markets made a full U-turn, we did not see the dollar actually made a U-turn. So that was a bit of a lagging price action, but maybe something we have to pay attention in the next 24 hours. And outside of that, you can see that the continuity is not really what we see here. The euro was strong last week. On a Friday, euro and Swiss franc were both strong, and you can see the euro just not really showing that continuity to me here. And same thing, pound was actually doing much better, and then here we are pulling back a little bit. So this is a good range-bound markets. This is where things are just moving back and forth, and continuity not really something we can find a lot, but we can actually get some good velocity moves short term, but we just have to be cautious about that continuity over there. So if you just take a look at the price action and the velocity here, we got the Aussie and the Kiwi on the stronger side. They got the dollar and the yen on the weaker side. So the question is, can we continue to see this price action play out in the next 24 hours? I think we have to be a little bit more cautious. I wouldn't be surprised if the dollar moves up a little bit tomorrow and the Aussie and the Kiwi moves down a little bit tomorrow. And the CAD remains a question mark, and so is the Swiss franc. So let's just dive into the charts and see what really we can find a good setup over here and a good risk to reward ratio when it comes to the charts. So one of the things we take a look at, and I think I want to talk about, is the Fed Fund futures. So this is what we track just to see what the expectation are for the Fed to hike rates. And you can see after Friday, this number was actually a lot weaker. If you kind of look at the numbers, just a day ago, you can see a week ago, we were at 29% for a rate hike that will take us to 3 or 3.25%. That jumped aggressively after the employment report that we got on Friday. So if you look at the numbers, we did pull back a little bit. So a day ago, it was at 68%. Now it's at 63.5%. So a little bit slight pullback there, but we're not seeing a total collapse of that expectation that the Fed can't move aggressively. So I think the price action today in the dollar was just an opposite of what we are seeing in the risk trends, where things were actually breaking out to the upside. So this is where, let's take a look at a short term, like the chart for the equity markets. As you can see on a very shorter term 15-minute chart, you can see this was a Friday's jobs report. We just kind of drifted sideways for the most part, and then overnight we actually had a nice little move, and we kind of reversed after the market opened today. This was again at 10:45 a.m. where we started to see that reversal. So the question is, did anything else in the currency market reverse with it? So if you look at the dollar had a small little reversal off of it, but you can see that it was not enough to actually get us to the highs or to the level that we were at before. So is there an opportunity in the next 24 hours for this to rise? I think we can kind of make that case there. Considering the reversal today, I think it'll be harder for markets to kind of get back and retest that level again. So I think in the next 24 hours, I'll kind of look at a contrarian view for the market price action. So in the dollar, it's slowly kind of going higher. So I think at this point, just follow what the momentum is showing it to us right now. It's still pretty weak, so we don't want to be jumping on the guns here. But if there's a follow through, then we would definitely want to take advantage of. Now looking at the Japanese yen. Japanese yen is slowly falling back into the previous range over here. So I think at this point, the dollar still looks better counterpart to the yen. And with this negative correlation between dollar and the yen, I think we have to wait till Wednesday for the CPI numbers to come out. And that will actually give us a bit of a signal which one actually is going to have a bit of a follow through, because a lot of the yen crosses that we pay attention to, they're all looks like a bit of a bear rally on those daily charts. But again, the question is, when's the best time to enter? And I think if you're looking for an entry point, we have to kind of wait for the markets to give us an indication or a catalyst, which again will be on Wednesday. Outside of that, again, we had moves, which again on the daily chart looks range bound. we had a nice little jump in the Australian dollar, US dollar, but you can see on the grand scheme of things, this thing just hasn't gone anywhere for past couple of weeks. So continuity is not really what I'm looking for here. I think we can kind of stick within these ranges. But again, you can see that the Australian dollar did pull back as the markets actually start to correct right around the same time. But that correction was not as deep. It was very shallow. So I'm actually looking for any sort of confirmation. Like, let's say if this wants to break further lower, I would want to see this actually break that level. But right now, the fact that it's holding all those levels, I'm a little bit more on the sideline here. I don't want to buy it, but don't want to sell it either. But if there is a reversal, I mean, we can pay attention to other currency or crosses as well. We actually had the dollar is really what's on our list over here, and the Japanese yen. Outside of those, I mean, let's take a look at CAD. I mean, CAD was the one that I was paying attention to. And so far, you can see the CAD is still kind of in this little downward trend here. At a certain point, it did look like it wanted to break out, but it just didn't. So really, it's muted moves overall. It was an underperformer today. So that's a bit of a bearish sign for the CAD, that the Australian dollar and the Kiwi actually was more on the stronger side compared to the CAD. But outside of that, I think it's just difficult to really find things that are catching traction. Again, we are seeing some sort of continuity in certain moves like EURUSD. You can see we had a nice little big move downward. But at this point, we still have to clear out the support to really break out to the downside. We can take a look at euro dollar. I think euro dollar is just consolidating here. So it's not giving us this buy or sell signal here. So I think until it breaks this 101.50 or below that area, I will be a little bit more dubious about this breakout here. Now, Euro Swiss franc is the one that actually looks nice on a daily chart. So maybe there is an opportunity there. But as you can see, I'm not as enthusiastic about looking for follow-through moves here because of the market condition. So this is why sometimes, I get this question, why all my breakouts fail? Well, it's not about it's not about the setup. It's about the timing and the market condition. And if you look at the currency baskets right now, a lot of the things are not going anywhere. Kiwi, you can see, is just sideways. Australian dollar, you can see in the past, I mean, going back to like July, I mean, this is the same level that we just haven't cleared. Canadian dollar, we haven't even gone back to those rate hike levels that we had back in July. So a lot of the things are sideways, and that's really a sign of caution. And if you're looking for further continuity, I think that's where you need to look for either the resumption of a trend, which is, again, you can see pound. Each time it rallies, it just falls back further. So I think maybe we can take a look at some of the setups like pound dollar, which has a nice little downtrend right here. I mean, this looks like maybe this is a bear rally overall, or even pound yen. And again, pound yen, a lot of the yen crosses you can see on a daily chart, we made a new low, making a lower high. And I think that's where a lot of these yen crosses are kind of sitting at this, in this little part of this little rally that we're getting here, but we are not really seeing an end to that rally. So that means that we can't really jump on and say, well, that was that rally is finished, or the rally has more room to go. Again, look for that continuity or that price action to tell us that. Same thing, CAD yen. I mean, a lot of these currencies have actually reclaimed half of that move. So at this point, it doesn't look like it wants to roll over. So if you want to roll over, what you look for exactly what you saw in the equity markets, where it rallies and then you just have a big correction. And on a daily chart, you get a nice little reversal sign overall. So that's a game plan here. Again, this week, like I said, the big trade is really around those the CPI figures. But outside of that, I think market's just going to go back and forth. So just pay attention to velocity, see what's really moving for that day, take advantage of it. But if you're trying to find a multi-day trend, maybe this is not the right time. We're also in the peak of the summer trading here. As we get towards the middle of the August, I think we'll start to see some sort of sideways moves here. So I think range bound price action is what I'm really looking for here, and we'll see in the next 24 hours where we can find an opportunity or where we can find a follow through or something else will kind of pop up as far as the volatile trend goes. So that's the game plan. Thanks for joining here, and we'll be in touch. See you guys in the next class. Cheers.